Hello. Let us get into the last unit on this course on online and blended learning. So, we will be talking about the best practices for delivering blended learning mode courses. One of the first steps in delivering blended learning courses is to choose an appropriate model. Okay. If you recall, we saw 4 models for blended learning. We saw flipped classroom, we saw the rotation model, we saw the flex model and the enriched model, right, enriched virtual learning model. So, when you look at these 4 models, it is recommended that we should pick only one specific model for a given course and stick to it throughout the course. Okay. Now, we also discussed which model is more suitable under what circumstances. Okay. For example, the flipped classroom model is generally quite useful for for courses which are generally on campus and where students will have the ability to watch the videos, maybe staying in their hostels and during their free time and so on, so that you have a very scheduled interaction opportunity with the students. So, for traditional on-campus courses, you can definitely explore the choice of flipped classroom model, or even the rotation model also works equally well, because in both these cases, for the traditional on-campus programs, will have the fixed timetable, right. So, in both these cases, having a fixed timetable is definitely beneficial. The flex model and the enriched virtual model, these are more useful when there is not much control that you have on the time of the learners themselves, right. So, I would say that the flex model and the enriched virtual model are more suitable for people, for working professionals. If you are offering a certification course using the blended mode, then you would rather choose the flex model and enriched model, so that the learners will have more flexibility and they may whenever possible they will be able to visit for that synchronous interaction. And enriched model in particular, the enriched virtual model in particular, is more suitable if your learners are not only working professionals, but who are spread across multiple geographic locations, right. So, if you are offering a pan-India online course, then the blended mode with the enriched virtual model is possibly the only model that will succeed. So, whatever be the situation, you select as per the requirements, but then the point is that you have to choose one model and stick to the one. So, this is the basic first step that we have to do whenever we want to deliver a blended learning mode class. But once we have done that, we have to set very clear expectations, right. So, depending upon the model that you have chosen, you have to understand that not every learner is familiar with this blended learning mode, modes of blended learning, right. So, anybody who calls themselves as a student still thinks that being a student means going to a college, sitting in a classroom, listening to the lecture from an instructor, right. So, that is the traditional thought process of any learning environment. But then these modern learning environments have to be communicated very clearly to them, right. So, if you are using say a rotation model, so you have to be very clear that on which days or which time slots you expect them to show up in the laboratory or in the classroom for the synchronous learning activity, and at what times will you be releasing the videos for them to look at. So, all of that has to be very well planned and communicated, more importantly. And of course you would also need some kind of a buy-in, right? So in order to get that buy-in, it is beneficial to share the benefits, right? So like active learning, flexible pacing, ability to learn anytime, anywhere, especially the asynchronous component of it, and along similar lines, right? So motivate them to participate in the synchronous component as well, by telling them that it's not going to be a repeat of what they already saw in the recorded videos and so on, right? So this is typically done in the very first video that we will offer to the learners, right? So now if you are doing a course on thermodynamics, so in addition to explaining the list of topics, the syllabus and so on, there has to be a specific component which explains how that specific course is going to be delivered in the blended mode, okay? Because this is very, very important. This level of visibility to how the entire course is going to pan out is giving this visibility in the beginning is extremely critical, right? So we don't want to leave the students guessing, what is going to happen next week, will I be able to go, will I need to go to the campus for this synchronous learning, is there an option to attend that synchronous learning session in online mode? All kinds of questions keep coming up, and this actually, more than the resistance, if they have signed up, they will go through the course, but more than the resistance itself, there might be resistance, but including what causes that resistance could be the stress that comes out of not knowing how exactly this course is going to pan out, right? So which means that these clear expectations have to be put out upfront. In fact, I will even go to the extent of saying that if you are offering a public course, not just for your own program students, on campus students, if you are offering a course which is open to public, then I would say before they even sign up for this particular course, one has to be very clear how these the synchronous and asynchronous elements are going to be handled, right? So that even after they join the course, after they pay the fees, right? So then there are no surprises in store for them as well as for the educators. Now, much of the blended learning mode, we will keep reminding ourselves, blended learning mode includes one component which is the recorded or rather pre-class material, and then there is this pre-class material is consumed in asynchronous mode, and the in-class material is consumed in live interactive synchronous mode. So when we talk about providing these pre-class materials, we have to make sure that we are able to organize the content from basic to advanced topics, okay? So especially because these are all happening in asynchronous mode, the learners are not there in front of us, we cannot make any assumptions that they will understand the material that you are providing. So there should be a fallback mechanisms for them to go back to before some prerequisite material before they are able to understand and grasp the specific topic that you want to convey, right? Now, which means that this will also help people with different knowledge levels to keep pace with the material that is being provided. So one good way, one easy way of doing that is to for each topic that you provide, you say that this is the prerequisite, that is prerequisite knowledge that is required, and in case you do not have that particular prerequisite knowledge, you please go through this specific content, right? So that is what we mean by scaffolding, right? So in civil engineering, scaffolding is something that we use to prevent the people from to protect the people from falling over, right? So that is essentially what we want to provide for learners as well, okay? Yeah, I know. No, if you are doing a circuits course, then no, yeah, it is reasonable to say that they would know what is Ohm's law. But just in case, no, who knows, right? Somebody who is in a high school is probably curious enough to see what goes into in a circuits course. And no, this is where no, we are trying to democratize learning, and blended learning models actually break these barriers, right? So that's the whole idea on with behind blended learning and the power of blended learning. Okay, so this also helps learners build confidence over a period of time and gradual mastery, right? Because if only they knew all the material already, then why would they even be there in the course, right? So in order, we cannot assume to what extent at what level they are. In some especially when we are doing synchronous courses, synchronous online courses, which we saw in the first 3 units, right? There some people even do a pre-assessment to gauge where they are, so that I can fine tune the live synchronous sessions. Okay. In blended learning, we do not have that opportunity, right, because we are expected to provide that material upfront. So which means that we have to be prepared to cater to multiple levels of knowledge of the learners. Now we also want to make sure that we are providing varied pre-class resources. Okay. When we say varied, so we should be familiar that content is not confined just to videos, right? So we have to include videos, we have to include corresponding reading material, and especially for engineering courses, we may want to include simulations, some quizzes, just to for self-assessment, not necessarily for grades, but more for self-assessment, for them to gauge where they are, right? Remember once again that these are pre-class resources, which means the learners are not in front of you, right? So even they should be able to assess for themselves, saying that are they getting what what we are trying to provide, should they go back to the pre-reading material before they go through continue with the content and so on, right? So this also we should also understand that there are different learning styles as well. Okay, although this is not within the purview of this particular module and a course, but do take a look at there are different studies which have documented the learning styles of the learners, right? So we have learners who are called as visual learners, right? So who like to see lots of images and graphics, who have a better grasping ability. So we have auditory learners who understand more by listening to the lectures and so on, right? So then of course you have learners who are good at reading learning material. So we want to be able to provide different kinds of learning content, based on which different diverse set of learners with different preferences can benefit from the course. Okay. Now especially we should consider using simulation models, right, wherein they can play around with it, modify the inputs and see how things change on the screen, right? So if you are doing a mechanical engineering kind of a course, then videos can be augmented with simulation videos which show, say, the different behavior, different movements of a gear system in an automobile, right? So how do the gears align with each other when I go from one gear to the another gear? Or if you are teaching a computer science course, now how does the sorting algorithm work depending upon the kind of algorithm that I am choosing, right? So we should be able to simulate with different kinds of inputs and so on. So what will happen, what this will do is, it will keep the pre-class learning highly engaging and comprehensive, even in the absence of a teacher or an instructor standing in front and making it engaging, right. So, we all know that making a classroom engaging in itself is an art, right, and many of us would have mastered it during our in-class delivery, but then here we are talking about making that engaging, making that learning experience engaging in an asynchronous mode. I did mention this in the context of online learning, but even in blended learning, we have to encourage peer learning, okay, during the class, okay. So, group work is something that has to be incorporated into this whole learning process, because it not only enhances the understanding, but it encourages and builds skills, communication skills, teamwork skills, how to work in a team, because at the end of the day these are the skills that will be critical as a working professional as well, okay. So, when we you can create projects and assign different responsibilities within that particular project and figure out, allow the team to discover how different, who is having strengths in specific aspects of it, how will they work together, because with the goal being to collectively deliver an project in an effective manner, okay. So, that is an important aspect to include in blended learning courses. As I said, we have to provide opportunities for learners to keep track of where they are going, right. So, in terms of the online learning, because at the end of the day this is it's a lonely journey, right. So, when in that lonely journey, so they want to be able to see where they stand, okay. We in education research, right. So, we talk about we use the term called learning compass, right. So, learning compass means what? It's the GPS system for learning, right. So, when we are driving a car with the GPS system, the GPS system will tell you two things. One, it says where you are currently, and secondly, it shows you the path of where you are going, right. So, the same analogy we can extend to learning as well. So, we have to be able to provide a learning compass which tells them where they stand, and this can be enabled with frequent low stakes assessments, right. So, even if they mess up, it should be okay, it should be for say a quick 3-mark, 5-mark assessment in a 100-mark evaluation. So, even if they mess up, then quickly they can learn, and many of these low stakes assessment we can even give them multiple opportunities. You say that, okay, the first time you got 2 out of 5, no problem, you go through this particular material again, I will conduct a similar assessment one more time and you get 5 out of 5. So, this will also motivate them to perfect their learning, right. So, this is something that has to be incorporated whenever you are doing blended learning, or in particular and in online courses in general. So, these things they will encourage mastery and preparation without the pressure of underperformance, without the penalties associated with underperformance, okay. So, again, I mean, there are plenty of examples we can keep thinking about for each topic. So, when you talk about say when you are teaching say computer organization or circuit theory or digital design, we can easily come up with short questions which will test some specific concepts, and it is important to frame those quizzes in such a way that they know very clearly, if they do not get it, where to go to, right. So, which material to refer to actually perfect that particular concept. So, the key point here is that it has to be at a concept level. right. So, that is why we are saying that if you are talking about electrical engineering as a large course, something at a very specific circuit level topic, now we have to conduct, we have to create quizzes, polls or whatever, because one most important prerequisite for this to be effective, as I said, when you are using this as a compass to tell them where they are, it has to tell them immediately, right. You cannot say that, okay, now you have taken this this little quiz, I will evaluate it and tell you tomorrow, tell you later, right. When I am talking about timely feedback here, we are almost talking about instant feedback. This is where you have to be familiar with online tools with which you can create these quizzes, right. So, most of the online tools, for example, in this whole course we are going to be using Moodle. Now, Moodle has got enough capabilities to conduct quizzes which will give you instant results, not just instant results, but the results will include feedback as well. You can configure for every incorrect answer in an MCQ, multiple choice quiz, you can provide feedback and explain why that answer is wrong, not just explaining why the right answer is indeed correct. So, this is what will enhance and increase the engagement levels, right. It will motivate them to attain that perfection as well. The other aspect of it is that although we are not in front of them in person for in these courses, it is important to keep a tap on the pulse of the learning of the learners, right. So, this can be done by regularly gathering student input on the activities that we are giving. So, if you are following a flipped classroom model, so if you are providing them material that they have to go through before they come to the classroom, you have to collect feedback, right. So, we have to see, am I asking them to do a lot, or is it too little, is it not engaging enough, right, is it not challenging enough, right. So, these are all the feedback that we have to constantly get. So, one advantage that you will have in many of these blended learning mode courses is that you are not expected to create and provide the material for the content for the entire course in one shot. So, we typically do it in incremental mode. So, say in a 16-week course, we probably look ahead for only 2 weeks at a time. So, what will happen is you will have some amount of opportunity to gather feedback on the first 2 weeks of material that has been released, and then so that you can fine tune and plan the subsequent delivery of the course material, right. So, which means that and this can generally be done. Now, suppose you are delivering a course on fluid mechanics. So, what you will do is you will create a course on fluid mechanics in, say, in the LMS, in Moodle in our case, and you will use the Moodle's feature to set up a questionnaire. So, there is an activity called questionnaire in Moodle. You will set up a questionnaire. You can set up that questionnaire at the end of that that specific module, that specific week, to collect the video, to feedback. And for example, there could be a feedback saying that, no, your videos are too long, can you make it short, right. Then I can make that adjustment in the subsequent weeks, right. So, these are this can be used in those models where this kind of a flexibility is provided to upload videos in an incremental manner. Now, this is again going back to keeping the engagement levels high and the motivation levels high. So, we have to, especially when we are delivering engineering courses, it is the instructor's responsibility to be able to relate with real world engineering problems, right. So, these because as a preparation, as a motivation for the synchronous interactions, right. So, this has to be centered around authentic challenges, right. So, meaningful activities that they will be able to relate to and that they will look forward to doing. Okay. So, this will highly increase the relevance of the pre-class learning that we have provided and improve the motivation, right. Now, depending upon the course that you are doing, right, if there is something that is happening on civil engineering and there is a specific module for that particular week on design of bridges, right. So, now one thing that should be motivated to for them for the in-class discussions is that now you can say that those concepts that you have studied there, we will use it to evaluate and study some real world say bridge failures, right. So, we see that especially during the monsoon time when this videos are being recorded, right. So, there are plenty of bridge failures that we are seeing. Now, we can understand, we can use that as a real case study to motivate them to say that the theory that they have studied about these the structures, now how is it relating to the real world happenings, the failures that are happening, and it need not be a negative one as well. Now, you can also take up cases of bridges. I mean, so many other bridges that have tested the that have lasted the test of time, right. So, you can study that as best practices as well, right. So, this will motivate the learning and enhance the learning that has happened in the pre-class recorded videos. Okay. Now, as I said, this learning in blended mode or even online mode can be lonely, right. So, which means that we have to be able to provide, we have to encourage the habit of journaling on the learning and the challenges that they encounter. Okay. So, which means that in the learning platform itself, so there are learning platforms which allow students to maintain periodic journals. So, what will happen is now these journals can be made private or they can also be exposed to the course coordinator or the course instructor or the teaching assistant and so on, so that they can without explicitly seeking out help, because one may not seek help in a in an urgent manner unless they are stuck and they are not able to move forward. But if there are irritants that are bothering them, these will find a way, find their way in the journals, and we as the course delivery people, I mean it could be a coordinator, it could be the instructor, can look at it and make course corrections or even deliver some personalized learning experience based on that particular aspect of it, right. So, which is more about, see, when we talk about collecting feedback that is collected can be used to improve the overall learning of the course, but this may also be used, the individual feedback also can be used to improve some amount of personalized learning experience, right. Because one other aspect of it is that we always insist in the traditional classroom, right, that there are many students who are quite comfortable taking down notes while we are delivering lecture, because that is their way of internalizing the what we are saying in the classroom. The same thing holds good for online lectures as well. So, this journaling or writing notes as we call it is a very healthy habit, and so we should hopefully the tools should allow you to learners to be able to do that. Okay. So, when we talk about journaling, right, so I have come across extremely robust tools, even if you take the PDF reader, right. So, PDF reader, now almost all PDF readers will allow the learner to highlight the text, right? So that is one way of internalizing the learning. Many, all PDF readers will allow learners to write annotations within the document with additional explanations. That's also another way of doing it. And if you are able to do it within the online platform itself, then we can use many other mechanisms to summarize other people's journals and provide proactive interventions as needed. So there are plenty of possibilities that are needed, but we have to create mechanisms for students to express themselves. That's what the point. Okay. And now we are saying that these are blended learning mode, as opposed, this is where we distinguish a little bit between blended learning courses versus pure online courses, right? In the blended learning mode, we have to be we have to make sure that we set aside time for answering questions, providing guidance and motivating the learners. Okay. So this is an extremely important part of it. So which means that the office hours is something that has to be set up because blended learning, a course becomes blended learning only if there is synchronous component. If not anything else, at least these office hours have to be synchronous, so that there is somebody at the other side of the internet line who will respond to any questions and doubts that they have. Forums is another place where the instructors should show up, right? While discussion forums is a great place for peer learning, where somebody where they will help each other out, but the presence of the instructor in those forums adds legitimacy to all the responses that are coming, right? Students, somebody asks a question, another student responds to it, and if the course instructor is present as part of the forum and is looking at these interactions that are happening, then it increases the confidence level of the peer learners that what they are saying is there's nothing wrong with it, right? So that is where, or in case somebody makes a mistake, then the instructor should intervene and correct those mistakes. That is why we should not look at discussion forums as merely as tools for peer learning. Indeed, the primary purpose is peer learning, but the instructor's presence there increases the legitimacy of that peer learning. Okay, and of course this also increases the confidence within the student that there is some support system that is available, and they retain that connection, right? At the end of the day, you are an institution, you are offering a course in blended learning mode, and if there is no presence of an instructor from the institution, active presence of the instructor other than the recorded videos, then there is no connection between the learner and that institution itself, learner and the institution, learner and the specific course, right? So that is why maintaining instructor presence is important. Okay. We also have to support time management, right, for the learners. In fact, this is specifically relevant for those learners who are doing these courses in part-time mode, right? Because what I mean by part-time, so we also said that blended learning courses are extremely suitable for delivering professional education courses. Now, for working professionals, if they want to enhance their skills, they want to get some certification. So you should understand that most of them will be watching these videos, after office hours, maybe on the way they are coming home, sitting in a cab, right? So these things have to be kept in mind, and we have to enable sufficient time management for these kinds of learners. So we have to set up very clear calendars, right? I think I already mentioned this in the very first slide of this particular session, saying that this communicating how to successfully survive this course is of great importance. Okay. So, you have to provide calendars, you have to, within the tools that you are using, the online tools that you are using, there has to be the ability to send reminders, right, and help the learners manage their time, give them tips. In fact, I have come across very large online courses where there are thousands of learners in a single course, in a single cohort, right. So, we do need we use these people called buddies, right. Now, the buddies are slightly different from teaching assistants, right. Teaching assistants are actually subject matter experts who will help the learners with specific activities. On the other hand, buddies are those people who are slightly more informal, but it is their full-time job to support throughout the learning journey of a given learner. So, for example, every buddy is assigned 20 students, right. So, 20 learners. So, what the job of the buddy is probably get into an individual, say, communications, right. So, say WhatsApp or whatever, and then just keep nudging them, casually talking to them, whether reminding them that a new video has been released for this particular week, have you completed it? Okay, just tell them that, okay, this is just a 15-minute video, it won't take too long, ask them to go through it, and you also tell them, if it happens to be a very basic video, you can tell them that you can even watch it at 2x speed, right. So, once this particular relationship is established, the buddies also know who is supposed to be a good learner, fast learner, then they can even give very personalized motivation for them to keep up with the course. So, the buddy system has been proven, has proven to be very successful in extremely large blended learning courses, especially for learners who are working professionals. Okay. See, at the end of the day, we want learners to succeed, right, because the education system has come to a stage where we do not want to be able to conduct assessments and fail the students, right. That is not the job of an educator, right. So, we want them to succeed. So, we have to be able to provide as many mechanisms for them to succeed, because anything that that leads to the failure of the learners is going to increase the stress levels of the learners who are probably already burdened with other responsibilities, and then right. So, which means that this can be a vicious circle wherein it will further demotivate them, eventually leading them to drop off courses, right. So, they would have already paid good sums of money for enrolling into the courses. So, it is our responsibility to create an environment which is highly supportive and encourages them, motivates them to succeed. And synchronous sessions, right. So, these synchronous sessions, one of the challenges you as an educator will face is how to draw them into these synchronous live sessions. Okay. So, I have delivered many synchronous sessions. It is always a challenge saying that if there are, say, 200 people who have registered for a blended learning course that I deliver, there are times where the participation is as less as 50%. And there are times when it has gone down even further, especially when I am conducting that synchronous session during festival times, right, or on weekends, right. So that is okay, but then many times what will happen is these learners will probably attend the first couple of live sessions, and they will immediately gauge, is there some value that I am getting out of it, right. So, which means that we have to motivate learners, we have to take whatever it takes to make them participate in this blended learning mode, because when I am talking about blended learning course as opposed to a online course, these live synchronous sessions are an integral part of it. So, we have to make it succeed. So, what are the ways that we can, what incentives or what are the do's that we can use to make it meaningful? Okay. One is the usual trick of allocating some grade incentive merely for showing up, right? The classic attendance trick, right? So, because what we say is that, even in for classroom teaching, we always say, right? So, merely being present in the class will help things to fall in their ears, and then they will be able to osmosis. We say that you, at least through the osmosis process, some amount of learning will take place, right? So, give some small incentives for being present in these live sessions, and incorporate active learning modules that can be done only in live mode. Okay, I mean, when I am talking about live mode, I am just not talking about this virtual live online, but even to the online, if in person online. Okay, for example, you could give them opportunities to work on lab activities which can work on equipment that can be only done in the laboratory, right? And so, especially for courses which are engineering courses, where for example in mechanical engineering, if you want them to work on specific types of engines, then they have to come, right? So, that is relatively easy in my opinion, right? On the other hand, if you are offering say computer science courses or data science courses, AI/ML courses, right, where there is no physical entities that are there which can draw them to the lab. So, how do you do that? So, how do you motivate them to attend these live synchronous sessions, right? That is a challenge. So, you have to include activities, you have to say that, okay, we will be working on a specific case study in this particular session, please come prepared with the pre-class knowledge. Right. So, you do that. So, then everybody will be curious, will be excited, and then you make that case study discussions. Okay. And another technique is to invite industry experts for interacting with the learners, right. Majority of these blended courses happen to be for working professionals, and if it is indeed for working professionals, it makes all the more sense to invite industry experts to come and deliver a talk, right? And just interact with them, and just to reinforce that, tell them how what they are learning as part of this course is going to be relevant once they start working, right? These are the mechanisms that cannot be pre-recorded and delivered, right? So, that has to, we have to motivate them to come in person for these kind of sessions. Okay, I will add only one don't to this, right? Never repeat the pre-class material that is already shared with them, right? They are not here, right? So, here for that. In fact, this is what I was saying. If they observe that in the first two live interactions, synchronous interactions, this is what is happening, then you would lose the learners and they will never show up for that critical component of any blended learning, which is the learning that happens in synchronous mode. Okay. So, finally, when we, just to summarize, we should remember that blended learning is a very powerful tool, right. So, powerful model for delivering learning experience, which gives a great balance between traditional classroom learning and modern online learning, right. We have already seen all the benefits of online learning. I know the synchronous, asynchronous and so on. Blended learning is an excellent blend of the synchronous and the benefits of synchronous versus the asynchronous forms of learning. Okay. So, by all means explore the possibility of delivering courses in blended learning mode in various scenarios, right? So you can use it to expand the reach of your courses, of your institutions, right? Now you will see that virtually all education institutions are adapting or offering online courses, right? So if you as a faculty member get equipped with these skills, then you will also be able to participate in your institution's journey of in the online education world. Okay, and even when you talk about delivering online learning, no, lots of investments go into setting up labs and infrastructure within the campus, right? Now, one way to look at it purely from benefits, though, to reaching the benefits, instead of confining the beneficiaries of that infrastructure to those who are on campus programs only, right? So this will expand the reach, right? So which means that the purpose is served much more, and purely in business terms, the return on investment also goes very high. Okay, and blended learning also enables you to reach a diverse set of learners. When I talk about diverse set of learners, it includes online and offline, working professionals versus full-time students, all kinds of diversity, fast learners versus students who are much more studious, diligent, and I don't want to say slow, right? So, so it is basically the whole idea why education institutions are embracing this online education journey, right, be it in blended mode or online courses and so on, right. It gives opportunity to learn, it opens up the doors of these institutions to learners who would otherwise not even be able to step in, right. Now, every education institution has got its own barriers, right. You take any education institution, right, we do not have to think that it is difficult to get into IITs, it is difficult to get into this engineering college, it is difficult to get into that engineering college. Every engineering institution would want the best students. So there is a limited capacity. Because of the limited capacity, so what do they do? So they try to say that, okay, now I have the capacity to deliver a program for 60 students. But then if 500 people want to enroll in it, then I have to put a barrier to prevent the remaining 440 students from entering my campus, right? This online education breaks that barrier, right. So that is something that that education institutions have to be open to. We as educationists and course delivery people, we have to be open to that as well, right. So on this note, so this is the last video on this particular module course on online courses and blended learning.